All right. Again, I'm going to keep pushing the wrong button. Again, so historically, the vice president was considered relatively unimportant. Sometimes presidents would send them on missions to other countries, just kind of get out of the way kind of thing. The only real official duty a vice president has is as president of the Senate. So if there's a 50-50 tie, which has happened often, the vice president casts the deciding vote. In our last term of our last president's term of the 45th president, President Trump, when he elected Neil Gorsuch to the Supreme Court, and the filibuster had been taken away for Supreme Court nominees by Mitch McConnell, it was a 50-50 split, and Vice President Pence had to come in and make the deciding vote. So it does happen sometimes. Currently, there are 50 Republican senators and 48 Democratic senators or independents who caucus for the Democrats. And there are two runoff elections coming in Georgia on January 6th, maybe, something like that. And if the Democrats win both, which Democrats never win Senate seats in Georgia, but Biden won in Georgia, so I guess it's possible. But if they win both, then it would be a 50-50 split, meaning that Kamala Harris could come in as vice president, and she would be making those final votes. Also, yesterday when Mark Kelly was sworn in as the senator from Arizona, Mike Pence had to be there and do the swearing in ceremony. So kind of a ceremonial job more than an actual concrete do stuff kind of job. But recently, we're finding that vice presidents have been given more responsibility. We know that during George Bush Jr.'s term, he chose a very strong vice president, Dick Cheney, who had strong credentials, experience. Bush Jr. did not have much experience. He just had that name. And he had been governor of Texas, but he hadn't really worked in D.C. much, other than when his dad was president. He would be around, of course, as dad's president. So Dick Cheney was the person who made a lot of who's considered strong input in terms of national security measures, in terms of trying to push for maybe military action in Afghanistan and Iraq, what took place. And when Biden was president, Biden came out in favor of gay marriage before Obama, which kind of made Obama, it pushed him to come out in favor of gay marriage. And of course, that was one of the major changes socially during the Obama administration. Also, vice presidents often do become president. Biden just won an election. He was Obama's vice president 4 years ago. Al Gore almost won in 2000. Bush Sr., the first Bush, was Reagan's vice president. Nixon was Eisenhower's vice president. So we do see that sometimes also vice presidents recently in the last 50, 70 years have gone on to become president, get elected president, not like, Ford, who took over when Nixon left, or Johnson, who took over when Kennedy was assassinated, or Truman, who took over when FDR died. That's part of the 9 times that a vice president has had to take over for a president, but we're also seeing them running for president and winning sometimes as well. So the vice presidential position has become more important in the last, like I said, 50 to 70 years. It was said that Biden was responsible for the the Recovery Act, which was passed after the Great Recession of 2008. And when Obama took over, he said, you do this, Joe. And we're seeing vice presidents now becoming more influential. And with Kamala Harris coming in, it seems like she might be influential as well. Arguably, Mike Pence was a traditional vice president who didn't do much. Although I guess Mike Pence was in charge of the coronavirus situation in this most recent presidency. So another big responsibility given to a vice president by a president.